Hey guys, another edition of Ask the Coach, and our question today comes from my buddy Michael Prince. And Mike and I played football together back at the old MCK back in the day. And Mike's question was around what's the trick or what's the balance between strength and cardio when you're designing workouts or when you're in a workout program. And I hate to answer this way, but you know, I want to approach this from a standpoint of like, if you and I were sitting down and we're buddies, hanging out, having a beverage of any sort, and you ask me this question, how would I answer it? And so I'm going to speak it to you in the most layman's terms I can and the honest way I can is, it depends. It really depends on that person's goals. And I hate to answer it that way, but that's the honest truth. You know, I do CrossFit training, and so the whole idea behind CrossFit training is being able to be good as a generalist, not a specialist. And so what that means is that I can do a lot of things pretty well, but I'm not trying to excel in any specific area because that might be detrimental to another area. So, for example, in the idea of strength and cardio, I only want to have enough endurance that allows me to excel in endurance type activities, but does not degrade my strength activities. And the honest truth is like if I become more focused on endurance, my strength and my muscle mass will take a hit. Okay. In addition to that, if I become more focused on strength and in muscle building, my endurance will then take a hit. So in my goals are to stay balanced. And so I try to have a healthy dose of strength training programming in my week as well as endurance type programming. Endurance programming also varies by the kind. There can be endurance programming that that caters more to strength and muscle building, where we would call those more anaerobic type activities, maybe high intensity, short duration type endurance bouts, or cardio bouts. And then there's cardio that really more caters to heart and lung health in a long, slow distance type thing, or what we would term as LSD, to where you might be doing a cardio bout of 30 to 40 minutes long. You know, maybe it's a 3-mile run or a longer hike. You know, those might be longer endurance type bouts. Well, those longer endurance type bouts don't always cater to maintenance of muscle fibers as well as your maintenance of strength. And so there has to be a healthy balance in my goals. In the reverse of that, if I have somebody that's more of an endurance athlete and their focus is, I want to run half marathons and 5Ks, well, then their endurance amount needs to be a little bit higher. Their cardio activities need to be a little bit higher, especially around what I would call in-season type, timelines. So if they're not going to be running any races throughout the winter time, maybe their endurance stuff can go take a back seat a little bit while their strength training kind of pumps back up and they get stronger, they get their joints and their tendons more resilient for the pounding that they may take on in a more in-season approach. If I have a client who's more of a strength athlete, so maybe they want to pursue weightlifting or powerlifting, cardio type activities are still necessary for them through recovery, through heart health, through lung capacity. Those are all necessary components, but they need to take a certain prominence in different seasons of training. The closer we are or the more involved we are in training for powerlifting or weightlifting meets, then strength training really needs to take the front seat there. Those times when we're not gearing up for a meet, we're not gearing up through a strength cycle and mass building or strength building, well then our endurance type activities can take a front seat there, and while the strength training stuff can take a little bit of a back seat. The other thing too is each of these activities, strength training and cardio, both have essentially almost like a shelf life or a half-life, right? So if I stop doing cardio activities for a week or for 2 weeks, we're not going to lose those massive, we're not going to have a massive drop-off in capacity or ability in 1 to 2 weeks of training. No different with strength training stuff. If I take a week off or I take 2 weeks off, it's not like the next time I go to pick up that deadlift, all those gains are going to be gone. So they do have their own shelf life there that you're able to, the residual effect outlast just the training session in general. In the same regard, if we're thinking about some other activities, somebody like a physique type activity or a physique type athlete or somebody who's really focused on their physique, cardio can be a necessary component for fat loss and for metabolic change. We kind of treat it in a couple different ways. Long, slow distance cardio a lot of times puts us into our body's ability to metabolize fat effectively over the duration of that event. So if I'm going to go out for a 30-minute jog or I'm going to get on the elliptical for 45 minutes, I'm going to burn fat very effectively during that bout. Now, when I get off of that activity, my body doesn't continue to metabolize fat as effectively, right? So I get the metabolic burn or the metabolic benefit during the activity. When we do more high intensity, short duration type cardio activities, or maybe like a strength cardio type mix, like a CrossFit style workout maybe, I'm going to benefit, that metabolism is going to benefit during the activity, okay? But it's shorter duration, so I may not burn as many calories, I may not burn as much fat during the activity because maybe that activity is only 12 to 14 minutes, but my metabolic change, the metabolic response is going to be greater after the activity due to recovery and the change in the metabolic process in the body. So I'm going to get benefit in calorie burn and metabolizing fat after the activity, or far longer after the activity, anywhere from 12 to 24 or even 48 hours afterwards. So there's a couple of different types of cardio activities as well. So my biggest thing is that depending on your training, if you're a generalist, you really should be factoring in strength and cardio mixes throughout your weekly programming. If you're more of a specialist, depending on what type of specialty you wanna be involved in, endurance type athletes probably need a little bit more on the endurance side of things. Doesn't mean they don't need strength, they do, and they need a lot of different strength components, not just high rep, low weight type activities, by the way. But those strength components need to be factored in based on the season that they're in. The more endurance type activities that they're doing, maybe the strength stuff needs to take a little bit of a back seat and be more in a maintenance phase. Those of you that are strength athletes, doesn't mean that you don't need endurance type training for heart and lung health, but in certain seasons, the endurance components might need to take a little bit more of a back seat while strength components factor in more heavily into your training, and just vice versa during the off season. Physique type clients, if you are focusing on, getting your physique dialed in to a certain point, like maybe a show or something like that, well then your cardio, your long, slow distance stuff, your cardio pieces become more important for fat burning and for essentially leaning out prior to a show than they would during a muscle building phase in the off season, if you will. So I hope this helps, Michael. I know I hate having those conversations where it is kind of, it depends, but this one is one. It just depends on, based on the client's goals, on how somebody should really be factoring in. And I think one of the number one components here, or one of the most important pieces here, is like really, number one, knowing your goals, and then number two, knowing that or having expertise help you with designing that plan appropriately, because everybody's plan should be a little different. So anyways, guys, hope this helps. If you enjoy listening to some of these Ask the Coaches, please don't hesitate to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as don't hesitate to shoot me a message or a question. If you haven't had a question answered yet, don't worry, they will be. I'm just kind of putting them in the order in which I receive them. And if I have questions that I'm maybe not the best expert at, I'm reaching out to other experts to help us along the way. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and look forward to answering more of these questions for you. See ya.